Hello there, everybody. My name is James Hilliard. I am with Tech Republic, and I want to welcome you to today's webcast. And thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Really good turnout for this event, which is where we're going to really learn how the city of Canton, Georgia, saved taxpayers' money with Google Apps. Today's webcast is being sponsored by Google. And in just a moment, I'm going to be turning the call over to one of the marketing managers within Google Apps, and that is Serena Sodiasai, and she's going to kind of get us started, and she's also going to be introducing us to our featured speaker. I do want to remind you, you saw as you were getting in here to the presentation, that we really do encourage questions from you in the audience today, or comments. So you can type those into the lower portion of your player. Make sure you click that blue Ask bubble. We've carved out about 10 or 15 minutes towards the tail end of the presentation to answer your questions. So make sure you do send those in early and often. I ask you at this point to make sure you have your pop-up blockers turned off. That allows you a few things. One, to respond to a short survey that we're going to push out to everybody at the end of the presentation. And also, if you want a better view of any of today's slides, having the pop-up blocker will allow you to click the Enlarge Slides button to get that better view. You can also download a PDF of today's presentation if you wish to follow along that way. With some of the housekeeping out of the way, then, what I do want to do is bring Serena on here, and we're going to kind of quickly walk through the agenda. Then we'll introduce our featured speaker and guest today, and then roll on with the presentation. So, Serena, welcome, and let me hand the floor to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, James, and thank you all for spending this time of your morning or your afternoon with us to learn a little bit more about Google Apps. We're extremely pleased to have Camille from the city of Canton, Georgia, talk to us about her experience in selecting and deploying and managing Google Apps. This webinar is part of a series of webinars where we're featuring customers talking about their experiences, and as James had said, we do encourage you to ask as many questions as you want since Camille is available live to answer them. The agenda for today is to have Camille talk about her experience, and then at the end we'll give you a quick overview of what's included in Google Apps Premier Edition, and we will have time for live Q&A at the end. Okay, well, thanks very much to Camille West, who is the IT Director of the City of Canton, Georgia. The City of Canton actually is one of our earlier adopters of Google Apps, and as such, they've really blazed a trail in this new thing called cloud computing. You can see here a photo that we took from their website. One of the things that we're extremely pleased about is that we have a lot of cities and local and county governments looking to Google Apps to help power their city infrastructure. And we're extremely grateful to Camille for spending this time talking to us about her experiences. As a note for all of our participants on this webinar, we will also send out a written case study that Camille wrote with us at the end of this webinar.
You ready for me, Serena?
Oh, yes, and let me turn it over to Camille now.
Ready. James, can we go ahead? Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Camille Ways with the City of Canton. And what we're going to do is go, James, if we can go to the next slide real quick. We're located about 30 miles north of Atlanta. In 2005, we were the fifth fastest growing city in the area. Our city provides fire, police, water treatment, sewer, zoning, planning services at 7 different locations. I have roughly 185 employees, and I am the only person in the IT department, and I also run the GIS department. So my time is kind of limited. When I took over this position, I will go over with you my struggles and the problems that we had. If we can go on to the next. When I took over this position, we had several email problems. Mobility was just non-existent, to say the least. Spam was absolutely horrible. There was more spam than decent email coming into the system. The cost, I was spending probably close to $10,000 a year plus on spam filtering, and just, the general email solution. And the paper just kept piling up. And then after I thought about how to relieve this problem, I started looking around. And at the time when I took over, archiving wasn't necessarily high on their list. And that's when I got in touch with Postini, and that's when I got in touch with Google. And I looked at a few other options. Microsoft was the key one, and then I took a look at Google. And what I found with Google is that, James, if we can go to the next, it was affordable. There was no hardware to go in. We had messaging, tons of collaboration options, and there was really no upfront investments. And it took most of my work and placed it outside of me. So basically all I had to do is set it up. And on the setup part, it didn't take long at all. And James, do we have any questions?
Well, what I wanted to do is jump in here for a moment, Camille, and kind of talk a little bit about the problems and how you, again, chose your solution. You took over, and again, it sounds like it was really a one-person shop. It was the Camille show in the IT department. Were a lot of these problems because of neglect from previous administrators? Was it just there was a lot of growth going on in the city at that time, and you weren't able to keep up with the needs? And how were some of those problems really brought to your attention as kind of the new person on the block?
I think it was a combination of all the above. A lot of people prefer one platform over another. Some people prefer a Linux-based solution, and some people prefer a Windows-based solution. And if you go to a Linux-based solution, you're either a lover or a hater of Linux, and you're either very functional in it or you're very okay at it. And I wasn't a fan of Linux, and I'm typically not. However, I found that even with the best of Linux that we were using, their support was non-existent. And the mobility part, they couldn't access the email outside of the network. They had to be in-house to access it. And it was probably going down on average once a day. So trying to bring that back up and make sure it stayed up through the night just became one headache after another.
And again, trying to provide services then to the constituency. You can imagine individuals feeling maybe not served by their government. And again, whether someone's coming to us from a government, and I've looked through our list of attendees here. We do have a lot of government-focused people, but there are other people in organizations, and anyone that's suffering with that unreliable email, things going down like that, you're not able to serve your end users, and obviously that's a huge problem. When you started, once you realized this was a major task and you needed to do something different, you stated you were really the person in IT. Did you get a team around you? Did you pick some other people from other departments to kind of help you look at some of these solutions, or really was it your own doing?
It was my own doing. I had a lot of, when I started looking around at things internally, a lot of people never really said that they were getting just inundated with spam. And I asked them, I said, do you really get that much? And they were on average probably close to 100 spam daily. And that's when I first walked in the door. And at that point, a lot of people, we don't need to see that. And the spam people of America, they're pretty good at their job. And at that point, I kind of stepped out and said, all right, this is going to go. And it probably took me, and Serena, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe a month from startup to time everything was decided. And there was really just hands down, no question about it. I did have a few people go, Gmail? Are you serious? But once they saw the functionality of it and actually saw, just from a performance standpoint and a mobility standpoint, it didn't take them any time at all to get used to it or to accept the idea.
Stephen is one of our users that's on with us today, Camille. And just again clarifying, how many users do you really have on your network? What did you have at this time when you realized you had a problem? Has that number changed much from where we are today?
For people who use email, I have 136 active email accounts. And of those active email accounts, probably close to 20 of them are also mobile accounts with BlackBerries and Motorola Qs and phones of that nature.
We'll move on here in a moment. One last thing I kind of want to get from you at this point, Camille, is do you have any sense of how much time you were spending with all the problems you had before moving over to Google Apps, how much time you were spending out of your day focusing on the mundane email problems and those little irritants as opposed to really working on IT projects that could move the city of Canton forward?
On average, probably close to an hour and a half to 2 hours a day.
Wow.
And that would, spread out to 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. I'd wake up, check the server, make sure all services are still running, make sure the email service was running, make sure the spam filter was still running.
And now I'm assuming a lot of that time has been recouped so that you can devote it to
all of that time has been recouped.
Excellent. Well, let's do this. I do want to move forward here, and there are already a couple of questions I've seen in here. We'll address a few later in terms of, again, some of the cost savings. You've just said you've recouped a lot of time. Let's look at some of these other things that you got back in terms of the cost savings. You also said you had no scalability was a big problem that you had before with Google Apps. That became a good option for you.
Absolutely. Specifically with the email, calendar, and chat, the chat has become quite the popular feature because instead of people picking up the phone, interrupting a conference call, barging it into a meeting, they can simply chat with the person. Are you available? So-and-so is here to see you. Do you have a minute? And it cuts back on a lot of the mundane tasks. Hey, Camille, I don't know how to do this, or hey, can you help me with that? And a simple yes or no and problem solved. And the calendar has also been a big feature because now throughout the organization, people are starting to share their calendars. They know when somebody's busy, that they don't have to call them, that they don't have to send 6 emails on a reply. They can automatically know what's going on.
Looking at the enterprise quality too, again, you said I think 137 plus email users, but you feel that you're getting a real good enterprise quality service now for, I'd categorize you easily as a small type business in comparison to, trying to draw that connection to other users that are on the line with us today. Absolutely.
What I've done is I've kind of, in a sense, marketed this to my users as think of it as a portable office. Instead of staying here till 8 o'clock at night, simply upload your spreadsheet, upload your Word document into their Google Docs, take it home, go ahead and cook dinner, go ahead and pay your bills and work on it at home. So it saved a lot of time and labor in-house as well as stress I would have to add to that as well.
And it's one of those things I know a lot of people are looking for today is kind of that balance between work and life. And if you find yourself at the office longer and longer because you're having technology problems, the network is not working for you as an employee, that's adding to your dissatisfaction with work, quality of life, the balance of life and work. And it sounds like you're able to provide some of that by moving towards Google Apps from what you had in-house. I want to move on and talk a little bit about the implementation and training here. Why don't you kind of give us the overview here, and I probably have a question or two about that as you're going through that.
Not a problem. Basically, there are 4 steps. Confirm your domain, create your accounts, migrate all your email and turn it on, and then you deploy your apps. And it was literally that easy. And when everyone walked in the next morning, I had printed out simple instructions, their login information, how to get there. And I probably had, since we've switched over to this, maybe 3 calls on, I don't know how to do this. And otherwise, they use the help within Google Apps and the mail and the calendar features to find out their own answers to their own problems. So their productivity levels have raised, as well as being able to empower users to learn things on their own.
So in terms of training then, because I'm remembering back to some new systems that I got several years ago when working for a large organization, and we all got corralled down into those meeting rooms, and we did the 2-hour-long training, this is how you do this and all this. It doesn't sound like you had to do any of that. I mean, it was really
Absolutely none. I maybe had, out of all my users, 3 users that I had to spend a few extra minutes with, and that was just a generation gap. But overall, I had almost 0 training time that I had to invest into this.
Raul is on board with us today on the webcast. Wants to know how many users you migrated over. Was it all those 137 or so?
132.
Okay, 132. So, Raul, thanks for that. Definitely keep your questions in here from Charles, Andre. We got Denise, Milton, Brian as well. So we're going to try and continue to pepper in some questions. Obviously, we're going to use a good amount of time at the end of the presentation for questions as well. Training. Let me ask what you needed to learn, Camille. Was there a lot that you needed to learn in terms of monitoring or getting any reports that you wanted? What was your kind of get up to speed time frame?
As far as monitoring and reports, I really didn't have anything to get up to speed on because the interface was so easy and so user-friendly. You didn't have to read through a 500-page manual or call a tech support that was guaranteed to call you back within 24 hours to get the information you needed.
Looking at our questions here, Denise, Lee, and Nick all want to know, what did you migrate from? I guess we didn't actually name names.
I was using Scalix.
Scalix, okay.
A Linux-based.
And again, you were mentioning it wasn't something that you were a fan of,
Nope.
so you went out there looking for these other solutions, and Google Apps is where you ended. And talk for a moment about these help forums. I know some people, it almost has kind of a Linux open source feel. There's a lot of forums used in the open source community to share answers with people. Talk a minute about the Google Help forums and how that, did you use many of the videos in the forums as resources? Did your end users use a lot of those resources?
Every one of my end users used them probably on a daily basis, especially now that they're getting more into the Google Docs and creating docs and sharing docs. And they've really done well. And I honestly feel that if you give the users a chance to learn on their own and make it easy for them, they learn on their own, and it makes them more productive.
Well, let's move on here then and get a little more insight into what the users really were saying. And did you do a formal kind of feedback? Did you survey people after a period of time, or was this kind of anecdotal and how people were sharing how this new system was working for them?
The first week, I did a general walkthrough with all the users in every building, and I asked them, how's it going? Do you have any questions? I had no questions. Everybody was positive. The only questions I had is, how did you get rid of all the spam?
Magic.
I just twinkled my nose. But that was it. I mean, literally, it was easy from start to go, and I haven't had any remotely problematic with it since.
Let's go back and we can talk about a few more of these bullets if we need to. But you said, I thought you had said something in the realm of you were getting more spam than actual legit email from most of your users. You know, I'm guessing that the average person gets anywhere between 30 and 100 emails a day for kind of smaller organizations. Obviously, I know folks out there, some of you are going to say, 100, hell, I get, 400 a day. But for what were you getting, 100-plus spams per individual, and then you got it down to what number in terms of spam being under control?
On average, the users were getting probably close to 78% spam inside their inbox daily. Now they probably get maybe one a year.
Wow, 1%?
1%.
1%. That is a huge drop, and just again, so much more time of managing the email inbox. I can remember systems I've been on in the past where again they were so clouded and junked up that it did take so much time just to go through and delete everything. Anything else that you want to share with us in terms of what the user response was?
Other than the fact that they absolutely loved it, and right now I've created 4 internal sites that they use, and everybody's sharing docs. And I mean, I have users probably from the low 20s to the high 70s in age, and they all get it, and they all use it, and they're all like, "This is just wonderful. Why didn't we do this sooner?"
Excellent. Well, hey, we are getting a ton of questions. Jason, Kirk, Eugene, Nick, many others. So what I want to do here is give Camille a quick moment to do a little, kind of wrap up for us here. Then we are going to bring Serena back on from Google Apps, share a little insight again into some of the technology. That's going to be probably pretty brief because we've got a lot of great questions here that we're going to spend a majority of the time talking about. But let's go ahead and give you a closing moment or two here, Camille, before we transition over to Serena.
Well, in closing, as you guys see on the screen, between Google and Postini, it saved taxpayers thousands, and it continues to save based on just overall productivity and time. With everything browser-based, users have complete access anywhere they go, and it's a secure login. I don't worry about the security. I don't worry about having to back up, archive, or manage anything. It's pretty much taken care of for me. So if you're looking for a solution, you guys should seriously think about this. And Serena?
And what we'll do here, Camille's definitely going to hang on board here. We're going to talk with Serena for a few moments and then really open the floor up for the remainder of the presentation so we can answer a lot of these questions that have been coming in. So keep the questions coming in. And Serena, with that, really let me bring you back in board. And I know there's some people that are kind of new to Google Apps. So I want to give them a broad overview, really what it is, how it works, the concept of cloud computing, and some of those things as we move forward.
Okay, terrific. Thanks so much, Camille and James. Let me try to keep my comments brief. This is Serena again, so we can get back to Camille answering your questions. When Google built Google Apps, we actually use Google Apps ourselves to run our worldwide enterprise, and we have found that it's really helped us transform the way we do business, and we hope that it does the same thing for our customers. What we found is that employees become more productive because there's a return on information, basically. It's easier for employees to find and use the information that they're getting. And we also hope that we are doing things like saving time, money, and headaches for people like Camille and other IT admins by offloading a lot of the maintenance work that might be put to better use on other activities. And then finally, we use Google Apps ourselves, I said, and so we are very focused on making sure that we have the leading-edge security and compliance requirements built in there. I actually come from the acquisition of a company called Postini, and we have bundled in some of the functionality that Postini provided for content monitoring and filtering, and also for archiving, for example, into the Google Apps Premier Edition. What's included in Google Apps Premier Edition? Well, it's a suite of tools that focus on messaging, so Gmail for your email, Google Talk for a chat or instant messaging function, and a calendaring function, all of which Camille had mentioned. As well, in our collaboration suite, also included in Google Apps Premier Edition, we have what we call Google Sites, which is essentially a WYSIWYG wiki product so that teams within your company can collaborate on sharing information, or you can even use Sites to build a public site. We also have Google Docs, which are basically online word processing and spreadsheet and presentation programs. And then our latest service that we just added is called Google Video for Business. It's sort of like having your own private YouTube for just people within your domain. Message filtering and 90-day discovery from Postini include additional spam filtering capabilities as well as content monitoring and filtering capabilities. So if you want to filter inbound or outbound messages by specific keywords because you have compliance policies, or if you have a policy to put a compliance footer, a legal disclaimer, or et cetera, on all outbound messages, you can do so with Postini. And then 90-day discovery, which is archiving for discovery purposes. All of this is built on the Google Apps platform, which provides 365, 24/7 customer support. We also offer a 99.9% uptime service level agreement, which means that if we don't hit a 99.9% uptime performance metric for you or any of your end users, we'll actually pay you back money. In the Google Apps Premier Edition of Gmail, you get 25 gigabytes of storage per user account That's 25 gigabytes of storage. I don't think we've had one customer who's had to delete a single email message because they've gone over their inbox quota. We also offer mobile options in case you have mobile users who are on BlackBerries or iPhones or the Google G1. And integration APIs if you want to integrate with a single sign-on system, for example, or any other internal system you may have. And a partner program that can help you get Google Apps up and running if you don't want to do it yourself, for example. And, of course, the option to have no ads within Gmail, for example. All of this we have put into the Google Apps Premier Edition so that you can give your employees basically the messaging collaboration tools that they need and hopefully sleep well at night like Camille. A couple of more things we definitely want you to be aware of is we do have cross-platform support for mobile. We do have tools and services for migration, and Camille, maybe later on you could tell folks a little bit more about what you did for migration, if you did it, for historical emails, APIs for integration, and of course we offer Google App Engine in case you want to do any custom app development and hosting on the Google infrastructure. Some questions have come up about what the licensing model is. It's actually very, very simple. It's $50 per user per year. That covers everything that's part of the service. If you want to do the implementation yourself, that's fine, but we also have partners who will do that for you for an extra fee. The other thing is it's very easy to add or subtract users as well. So we try to make this a simple pricing approach for you. If you need 100 users this year, it's 100 users times 50. But if next year your company has grown and you need 50 more users, it's very simple. Just add on 50 more users at $50. We are serving a wide range of businesses every day. We have people as large as Genentech, who did a webinar with us last month, to lots of local and city governments like the city of Canton and also certainly small businesses. We are also heavily adopted in the education space with many large universities moving their email systems to Google Apps. And actually, now I will actually hand it back over to James and Camille to answer the additional questions that have come in.
And we will absolutely do that. And we have a ton of questions in our queue here. I still encourage audience members to submit questions to us. We're going to answer as many as we can over the next about 20, 25 minutes or so. Questions that we don't get to, and honestly, folks, there are that many questions. I don't know if we'll get to everything, even given the 25 minutes we have. We will be forwarding all this information over on to Serena and the team over at Google. Any appropriate questions for Camille will get over to her as well and try and answer as many questions as we can. So I really do encourage you to keep those questions coming in. I'm going to put up on the screen right now just a simple URL, which is also linked to within the related resources of your player, google.com/A. That will get you over to the Google Apps website. So again, if you want more information, definitely can do that. And what I want to do right now is dive back into that question queue. Let's get back over. It's a question that came in from Kirk, and Camille, you addressed it a little bit, but I'd love you to go into a little bit more detail. His question was, are you concerned about security? My question is, Camille, why are you not concerned about security? What provides you the ability to really, again, sleep well at night and know that these emails, especially government-related information, is being protected?
Serena, would you like to dive a little deeper into that for these folks?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So there's really three ways that we think about security at Google. It's really about people, process, and technology. I'm going to give you a high-level overview, but I also will encourage folks when we follow up with you, we can point you to some resources where we have more detailed information on our security practices. We think about security, as I said, in terms of people, process, and technology. We have we've hired internally, and we work externally with basically the leading minds in security, working on research and development for technology that protects your information. And remember, as I said, Google runs our business on Google Apps as well. So we're protecting our information with the same technology. We have data centers all over the world that are in unmarked locations that are protected by physical security measures as well as the technology measures I already mentioned. All of our customers' information is stored on separate data centers that are located geographically distinct from each other. So, for example, we have some of our customers, such as the Washington city government, Washington, D.C. city government, recently adopted Google Apps because with Google Apps, if there were any event for any reason where their employees cannot work out of their office locations, well, all the city of Washington has to do is move their employees to another location and log into Google Apps and be up and running without having to do their own disaster recovery and continuity planning. The other thing that we do in terms of security as well is, and perhaps I'll expand this topic a little bit more to confidentiality as well. One thing that you should know as a Google Apps Premier Edition customer, of course, is that this information belongs to you. It's yours to do with. If you leave the service, you certainly take that information with you. We don't do anything with the information beyond storing it for your use. I think, Camille, I know that you and I have talked about security in the past, and I think some of the times what customers are kind of interested in hearing you talk about is, what concerns, if any, did you have in adopting Google Apps? Was there anything from the city government that you had to specifically address to get people comfortable with essentially outsourcing email to a third party?
Not particularly, because they were already pretty much outsourcing it already with the Scalix. But by switching over to you guys, it kind of gave them a more secure feeling that at any time you could pick up that phone if you had a problem. And like you said, if there was a disaster event anywhere, you just simply relocate to another location and you're up and running.
Camille, one of the questions that come up, I'm picking from Jason, but there were others with it. The title of our event is, Learn How the City of Canton Saved Taxpayers Money with Google Apps. Can you give us any hard dollar math about how much money you really were able to save?
It was roughly over $10,000 a year, easy.
Okay. Excellent. And Jason, do appreciate the question. Let me ask about one other area which a couple of people are asking about. They're talking about the Google email archiving and just want your overall thoughts. Does it live up to your expectations? What can you share your experience has been, Camille, with the email archiving?
We had an open records request about 3 months ago where I had to pull all the email correspondence from about 8 people, incoming and outgoing. And it probably took me about an hour, and I was done from start to finish, and it didn't miss a beat. The archiving, I archived all of my prior email that was on my Scalix box, and that's already archived. That's up to that has probably close to 2 years on it, and I'm at 2 years right now with the Postini archiving, and it's a simple interface. It's really click and go. And there was no issues with it. The reporting functionality, the content management, everything is just that easy.
Excellent. Camille, it's Serena. I was wondering if you weren't on Google Apps and you didn't have the archiving in there, and you were on your old email system, and you had that same request. How long do you think it would have taken you to complete that same search?
Probably about a week. Trying to dig through everything, sift out the garbage from the good. Basically all the spam and all the emails that people really just don't need to see, that are just, offending spam.
Let's move back over to, actually, Serena, a couple questions coming in here from audience members for you, wondering if you can go into a little more description about the custom app hosting a bit more.
Sure. Google App Engine is another service that you can use, actually whether you're Google Apps Premier Edition customer or not, where if you have applications that you need to develop for your business or your city, you can use the Google infrastructure to do so that you don't have to go out and buy additional hardware, et cetera.
And then I want to jump over to Sachin joining us today. I wanted to know if you can give any examples of where customers have used the integration of other APIs.
Is that a question for me? Or?
That was for you, Serena.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, a lot of almost, and I don't know, Camille, if you've done this, but a lot of our customers use the APIs for single sign-on so that they can use their current corporate directory setup, whether it's Active Directory, for example, to power their user identity and manage work groups through that. The other things, for example, a pre-built API that is available is with Salesforce.com. It's a customer relationship management program where we've already built in an integration point so that if you're in the Salesforce.com application and you want to send a customer an email, you can do so using Gmail, and of course that thread is archived within Salesforce.com. So those are the types of integrations that customers are looking at and using us for.
I just want to remind a couple audience members have asked, they've joined us a bit late in today's presentation, and the answer is yes, we have recorded and are recording the entire presentation today. So if you did miss anything or you simply want to review anything that either Camille or Serena has gone over, we'll be sending out a reminder contact email after the event, which will bring you back to the on-demand version of this presentation. Also at that time, I'm going to encourage you, if you get those emails, forward them on to colleagues that you think can benefit from the presentation. You can also click the email friend link. That's just above the Ask a Question box on your players out there. Click the email friend. That'll let you invite a colleague to come back, and again, they'll be able to join the on-demand version so that they can tune into this information. Serena, we have a question from Peter out there, wants to know if there are any financial institutions that have adopted Google Apps.
Yes, we have a lot of credit unions and commercial banks who've adopted Google Apps, and I'd be happy to share that information out with folks. In terms of Postini, major investment banks who have adopted Postini include Credit Suisse First Boston and Morgan Stanley. Lehman Brothers was a major customer, of course, until they went out of business this past summer. But we work with a lot of financial institutions across our Google Enterprise product line. And then we have smaller commercial banks and credit unions who are using Google Apps.
Camille, looking back in your slide deck, one of the IT problems that you had was that you didn't have a whole lot of mobility options. Milton is asking a question about either iPhone or BlackBerry connectivity. Let me pose it to you first, Camille. Are you using any kind of mobility apps tied to Google Apps here in email and support for either the BlackBerry or iPhone?
Yes, I have Motorola Qs in-house, and I also have BlackBerries in-house, and I also have a couple iPhones. Each of them connected, no problem, easy to set up. They're set up on the POP, and there was no problem with that whatsoever.
And Serena, are you seeing more and more folks are coming to Google looking for these mobility options? I can only assume you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably almost every one of our customers has some mobile users, and we do support BlackBerry, as Camille said. We also have applications for iPhone and, of course, as well for Google's own G1. One thing that's nice about Google Apps is that we're cross-platform. So, as I mentioned, we can support various mobile clients. We also, I should say, work with third-party technology providers as well, who can provide if we have any customers who are interested and who are very wed to a native BlackBerry experience. We don't obviously have the exact same experience, but we do have a third-party technology provider who can provide probably close to that same experience.
Serena, Chris following up on the mobile access, is that included kind of in that $50 per user per year price range?
Yes. The first option that I was talking about is if you wanted to get a very close to native BlackBerry experience with a third-party technology partner, that would cost a little extra, and that would be something that you would work out with our third-party technology provider.
Lee is on board with us today, and he's just sharing a comment that I use Google Apps for my BlackBerry, and it is great. So thanks for that, Lee. Appreciate it. Bandwidth. There are a couple of folks that came up with a few questions, Camille, asking, did you see any bandwidth costs increase due to the move from, the Scalix that you're on into using Google Apps?
Not at all.
And then that answers then a question that we had again from Peter, wondering if there was any, total cost of ownership numbers that we need to know outside of kind of the per-person licensing prices. And it doesn't sound like there were those additional costs or issues in terms of bandwidth. So appreciate that. Les is on board with us. Camille wants to know if you use Google Video, that video tool for meetings. So let's just start with that. Do you use that Google Video for any of your internal meetings?
I haven't started that yet. We haven't really. I just now got them, most of them, using the Google Docs and how to share documents and the internal sites. But we do plan to start using the video. And if I'm not wrong, Serena, with Washington, they use videos, correct?
Yeah. So let me tell folks a little bit more about Google Video. Let me just say, for one thing, it is recorded video. It's not two-way live streaming, I think, as one of the questions has come up here. And what we've seen customers use it for, so for example, the City of Washington, D.C. has one of the more innovative uses of it. They needed to recruit job applicants, and they had their 5 hiring managers or however many they had, record little introductions about themselves and the departments and the kind of people they were looking for, and posted those up online for potential job applicants at a job fair to come look at. They also use it for internal training, particularly because they do a lot of preparation, in the event of disaster. Other customers that we work with have used the Google Video for executive announcements. So particularly if you're in distributed locations, and distributed locations could mean that you have 3 offices, but they're not right next to each other. People can't just come into one conference room. An executive can record a sales announcement or an earnings announcement or a pep talk kind of thing and share that easily with your employees. And then the other way folks have been using Google Video is actually very much around training, showing people how to use things. Product training with some of our customers is definitely a big usage of Google Video. What's nice about Google Video is that it's very similar to YouTube, so it's just really easy to upload and share videos.
Camille, I want to jump into a couple questions here from the audience regarding Google Docs. Jonathan saying, by kind of moving towards Google Docs, have you migrated away from using Microsoft and some of the Office tools?
I'm trying. Slowly but surely, if the more people that I can get using Google Docs, the more money I can save by not having to go with more and more volume licensing.
Sure. Have you noticed then, kind of follow up here with Jonathan, any compatibility issues in terms of then collaborating with either outside agencies or whomever that are still working on kind of the Office format?
No, mainly because within Google Docs, you can save your document in several different formats, and it also has, you can automatically save it as a PDF if you choose to as well.
Lewis, on the same vein, kind of talking about docs, wondering how do you manage the docs sharing, gives you an example. He actually uses a docs repository per department, and they like to know if there's something kind of similar within Google Apps. What he's seen before as an option is that every user can share all the docs, but not really kind of just within a small group. How do you deal with doc management?
I haven't gotten into that yet, only because we haven't had that much of a need for that yet. They're not at the point to where there's so many docs out there being shared right now. And I'm sure that need will come soon as the year goes on, I'm sure.
Serena, what can you add in terms of maybe some of the other customers that do have huge amounts of documents that they're using in terms of docs? How are you seeing people kind of manage some of that sharing?
Well, actually, I can speak from our own experience internally, too. As I said, Google does use Google Apps to run our business, and we generate a lot of doc sharing. So one of the things that we have been doing internally is actually moving a lot more of our doc sharing to a Google site, so that, for example, if you have a project team, they might store their project timeline. They might store their documentation. They might store presentations on a single site. So all of that information is easily accessible. With that said, we do know that there are other ways that people would like to share documents more easily, and we're certainly working on them. One thing I do want to clarify on Docs as well, too, I've seen some questions come up. Google Docs you can import and export Google Docs with Microsoft Office, or as Camille mentioned, with PDF. So there shouldn't be any integration issues there.
Let me jump over to Paul, who is on board with us today. And I think, Serena, this is more directed your way. States that some countries do have strict regulations on emails. He says Swiss secrecy laws don't allow for data to leave the country. Can Google Apps work within those frameworks, ensuring the data is always hosted in a particular country?
Yes, so that is a request that we've heard, and that is something that we can do. It's something that we built into the Postini applications from day one, and that is something that we're rolling out with across the other Google apps as well.
Let's move. Actually, an interesting question here from Chris and Camille. This is going your direction. Obviously, if you're using Google Apps, it's a software as a service. It's working in the cloud. Did you need to go back, reevaluate any of your network connectivity to make sure that you were really kind of 99.9% of the time up in terms of your internet access? Because obviously if your internet access went down or you didn't have some backup plans, again, email then would be at risk for you.
Not particularly, no. I'm pretty much set to go on that side. And when I switched over, go back to the bandwidth question, there wasn't any issues, and I really didn't have any problems with that.
All right.
This is Serena. I just wanted to add to that. We actually get that question a lot, and we've posed this to all of our customers as well. How did you, what was there? How did you evaluate bandwidth requirements? Was there any impact on your network? And we don't have anything scientific to share with anyone, but what it seems like is that because we're protecting folks from spam volumes, for example, before they hit your network, it seems like it's not an issue because previously, Camille, maybe your network was dealing with a lot of spam, and now that that's not on your network anymore, it seems like there's certainly enough bandwidth to go around for the other. Okay, I wasn't sure. Yeah, I'd like to actually do something more scientific about that because it's certainly a question, but none of our customers have ever had a problem with it.
All right, cool. Hey, Serena, keeping a question with you here. Ricardo wanting to kind of get a little more information about some of the service level agreements from Google in terms of for email as well as for collaboration, anything dealing with apps and SLAs. Okay,
so for the Google Apps Premier Edition, which is the $50 per user per year edition, there's a 99.9% uptime guarantee. And so So, for example, if Gmail goes down, if it goes down and we violate our 99.9% uptime guarantee, then we'll actually refund you some monies towards that. The 99.9% uptime guarantee is there to protect you in the event of some sort of catastrophic outage. With that said, we've had, maybe, Camille, you can talk a little bit more to your uptime experiences.
And if I'm not mistaken, I've been right on the nose of hitting 2 years with you guys, and I haven't had one downtime yet.
That's a strong service. Let's jump over to Rick here. And and maybe, Camille, you experience this. If not, Serena can chime in. But Rick's saying, I have a couple users that already have Gmail accounts, and they're already using Google Calendar. Is it easy to transfer those calendars over to Google Apps if his organization was to make that switch?
Actually, what's neat about Google Apps Calendar is that if you have, so a lot of our people do this. You might have your work calendar, you might have your team calendar, you might have a company calendar, and you might have a personal calendar. It's very easy to copy over, any of those calendars to your own individual calendar. It's essentially a copy function. One thing I am going to say is that today's webinar is really meant to be focused on Camille and the customer experience. Looks like there's a lot of questions that are coming up specifically on product questions, and we will have another webinar tomorrow at 1 p.m. East Coast time, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. West Coast time to take you through a very detailed product demonstration going through email, chat, calendar, Google Sites, Google Docs, Google Video. And we'll also have product specialists on hand to answer your questions live. In this format, we've been answering the questions across the whole audience, but we'll have product specialists online who will chat with you live. Additionally, for folks who are interested in the City of Washington, D.C.'s experience, they're going to be talking on Tuesday about how they've used Google Apps, but also other Google products such as Google Maps and YouTube to support their management strategies of trying to make government more transparent and more effective. And you can see the time that they will be speaking on Tuesday, 2 p.m. East Coast, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. West Coast. These Google Apps seminars are you can sign up for these at our website if you go to google.com/A and look for, I think it's latest information on Google Online Seminars. So if we don't get to your specific product question on this webinar, you can certainly feel free to join us tomorrow, and we'll have live product specialists on hand.
And Serena, what I'm going to do right now, again, along with the google.com/A, which is pretty simple to remember, we do have the link over on the right-hand side of the player under the related resources, so folks can click on there. And again, look for those events. Right now, I want to push out, and again, make sure your pop-up blockers are turned off. Quick survey, give us a little feedback on today's presentation, and we do appreciate that feedback. We'll use it to continue to work with our clients and vendors here to keep bringing you good, strong webcasts. I do want to continue on with a couple more questions before we wrap things up for the day. Just doing a quick refresh here and seeing a couple other questions. We got so many, and I really do appreciate the audience taking time to drop these questions into us. And then, again, questions that we didn't get to, we will go back and try and answer offline afterwards. We talked with Rick about there. Charles asking, and Camille, are you using and do you have a single log-on for Google Apps and other applications?
I haven't switched over to the single login yet. That has been in the plans. I just haven't got to it yet, to be honest with you.
Is that something, Serena, that you see a lot of folks try to integrate after a period of time?
Yeah, absolutely. And it just depends upon whether they already have it set up and they just want to continue using it or not. So we definitely see customers doing it, and we support all types of single sign-on systems.
And I've seen a lot of questions. I'm sorry, but I've seen a lot of questions regarding people with Outlook, Microsoft Office, and apps, and how, for example, Charles Phillips, he asked him using Docs, what were you using before, and how did you get the people to stop using the previous tools? Same with Outlook. Same with any other of the Office-based products. Once they got used to using it, they pretty much migrated themselves over, especially with Outlook. Outlook is clunky at times. It's not dependable at times. And within your Google account, you can access all of your documents. You can access all of your calendar features, and you don't have to go back to Microsoft Word, save it, come back out, go back in. So to all the PAP people who are talking about that, I think that if they tried the demo of it to a few of their users out there, they might actually find that after about a week or two, they'd really get used to using the Google Apps.
Well, and one thing that we hear a lot of our customers say, too, exactly the same thing, is that initially, if people are on Outlook, they don't, want to use the Gmail interface. But then when they realize, for example, that there's that integrated chat in the Gmail interface and that there's all these other sort of neat features that they can't get in Outlook, then that's when they start to switch.
We're coming close to the top of the hour, so I do just want to remind the audience that we have recorded today's entire presentation, so I encourage you to come back and either review material or, if you joined us late, catch up with us on the on-demand version. You will all get reminder emails bringing you back to that on-demand presentation. And again, click the email friend link so that you can go ahead and invite colleagues to register and join us for the event. We will keep the player open for a couple moments for you to do a few things. One, download a copy of the presentation as a PDF if you wish to review any of that. Also, so you can click on the related resources that are over on the right-hand side of the player. Camille, I really do want to thank you for taking time, sharing the story from the city of Canton in Georgia, and really giving us some good insights and commentary into what your experience was like and how things have been for you. I think it was very insightful and really do appreciate your time.
Well, you're more than welcome, and thank you.
And Serena, also appreciate you giving us an overview of Google Apps, and hopefully a lot of our audience, again, encourage them to go over to google.com/a to get more information about Google Apps. Also, look for some of those other webcasts that Google will be presenting, one tomorrow, one coming up next week, so you can get some more information, again, some more case studies as well. So really encourage you to look towards those for more information. And Serena, appreciate your effort on this event, and I'm sure you'll have some good events coming up.
Thank you so much, James.
And that really does kind of wrap things up for us today and this presentation, really for everybody at Google, as well as the entire Tech Republic team. We all do want to take a quick moment to thank you for joining us on today's webcast. My name is James Hilliard, and we will talk to you down the road.